All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Palantir Weekly. This is number 20. 20 weeks of doing this bad boy, 5 months. We are very happy to be here. Thank you for everyone for joining us again for 11 p.m. on a Friday night, July 22nd. A lot of stuff to talk about. We will get to Palantir in a little bit. There is some stuff that's going on in the macro that I think people are curious about. I think that we have a lot of opinions on, a lot of thoughts about, and obviously it affects Palantir deeply when we're talking about the macro economy. 33 people already in 26 seconds. That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here. So, biggest news of this week, I would say, would be earnings. We had Netflix earnings, Tesla earnings, and Snapchat earnings. First thing I want to talk about is Netflix earnings. They lost 970,000 subscribers, and the stock rallied from around 190 to 223, up almost 12, 13%. I think it's very interesting, but it's also very scary to see at this time in the market where you could lose that much and still gain momentum. So I guess we'll start off with Sachin. How do you feel about Netflix's earnings for the overall market and Netflix specifically as the company itself?
So, I understand that why the stock rallied after the missed earning, but actually, I was a bit baffled as well. See, at the end of the day, the companies like Netflix, they gathered momentum and multiples based on the growth story. Okay, what we are seeing here that at the best case scenario for Netflix is that they will get a kind of a plateau in coming days. Okay, so the growth portion is actually struggling, and at this particular point, the rally was driven mostly by the thought because people are expecting them to lose more. So basically, they say, "Oh, we didn't lose that much, so I think it's not that bad." But at this point, I'll not invest myself in Netflix is because until and unless I understand what's the next growth story look like. See, one thing is controlling the damage, getting things aligned, getting house in order. Another thing is like building a winning strategy. At this point, Netflix doesn't have a winning strategy. So, in my opinion, they are a good business. They are a good cash generating business. They will lose people, but at this point, the differentiation is actually kind of eroding. I still watch most of my content on Netflix. I have almost like 5 streaming services, but still, probably I started with that. So I think there is a first mover advantage that they will keep. But yeah, I think at this point, that kind of growth that Netflix was associated with, yeah, I think I'm not looking into that. It's a bit of upset for them. But yeah, when market reacted in a way it does. Okay, back to you guys.
I want to be like Sachin one day where I can afford 5 streaming services. That is that's my long-term goal. Dom, Chris, any urging thoughts about Netflix? If not, I'll move on to Snapchat.
Yeah, I don't want to I don't want to just dismiss what they've done in the industry. First off, like they definitely did see an opportunity and change the way we view content, right? And monetize that where Blockbuster missed that boat, and we saw what happened with Blockbuster. So I'm grateful for that because they have provided a lot of good content over the years, and no commercials is great. Now, when we went on vacation, they didn't have any services, and I didn't feel like hooking up my laptop to the TV, so the kids had to see for the first time what commercials are like, and they're like, "This is horrible." I was like, "This is what it was before before Netflix and Disney Plus." But on an investing perspective, for me personally, I don't see the impact. Um, Maybe they change it around with the ad structure. Maybe they become a really good advertising company and monetize much better. And they figure out this whole password sharing stuff. But overall, I feel like they struggle providing good content. They'll have like a hit here, a hit there. They took Stranger Things and stretched it over 2 quarters.
They milked the
Which
crap
was
out of
really
Stranger
smart.
Things.
That was smart. They should be doing things like that. But um, I don't know. I just think this is such a saturated market. It's hard for anyone to really win, and that's why I feel like they possibly could be an acquisition target. I could see Microsoft being very interested in leveraging their reach. And then you mix that with the Xbox Game Pass, and you know that Netflix is trying to get into gaming. Um, Microsoft has the cash flow and the ammunition to really take them to the next level and use that technology and that network effect. But by themselves, I don't see how they really grow any further, like to a point where we'd want to put money into it. That's just me.
Yeah,
Chris,
I
you got
think
anything
it's
unique
just
on Netflix?
it's just low expectations. I think they guided for a loss of 2 million subscribers, and they only lost 1 million. So that's what happens, right? You kitchen sink yourself into getting yourself a much better revenue picture in the future. I think a lot of companies did that over the last year, where they're kind of like being pessimistic in front, like in the news cycle. And then during earnings, everyone's expecting some crazy, downfall, and it's just been rising. Like even if you look at like a lot of the earnings that came out this earnings season, most of them been not bad.
Yeah, not
The,
bad.
the effects haven't been nearly as bad as what a lot of people were expecting.
So
And I don't know.
let's talk about Snapchat then. Let's get into that one. So Snapchat reports earnings, and again, the reason we're talking about this, it will affect a lot of other companies because advertising budgets are going down. Snapchat is in the ad category. They were down about 35%, down to $10. They IPO'd at $17. I was in my college's library when they went public. And I didn't know what a company going public meant, but like I saw them and I was like, oh, Snapchat, $17. And now 5 years later, they're underneath that IPO price. So it seems like ad budgets are decreasing there. Meta and Google are next week. I guess my question is, based upon Snapchat's earnings, how do we feel that's going to affect Facebook and Google? And if Facebook and Google tank because of that, how do you think that's going to affect the macro and then affect the little bit of the rally we've been seeing in stocks like Palantir that have crossed over to the 1040 mark? Chris, we'll start with you.
All right. So Snapchat. So a lot of people are thinking Snapchat and Twitter are the barometer for ad revenue spending on the bigger platforms, which means that Google and Facebook next week are going to take a huge hit too, right? And I agree with that sentiment. That's definitely true that ad spending is probably going down for a lot of companies. But when you really look at the ad spend, right? No company cuts off their ad spending like cold turkey. Everyone just high classes stuff. So basically right now, why would people be paying Snapchat for, promoting when most of their user base or Snapchat is teenagers, right? You're not exactly reaching to the people with like the most disposable income, right? The other thing is Snapchat doesn't give you the high level of targeting ability that something like Google and Facebook can get you. So an example is, why would I try to sell Amit a piano when Amit doesn't play the piano, right? Well, guess what? When it comes to Snapchat and other things like that, the programmatic ad showing is not nearly as strong as something that Google can do, where they can actually target very specific niches for products. So I think Google and Facebook are definitely going to take a hit on the ad revenue side, but not nearly as much. The other thing is Google does not deserve to get a 6% shellacking on news like this, because if you look at it, their cloud business is still growing gangbusters, right? Everyone is using their services. Right now, they're still generating so much free cash flow, and they've got a share buyback program that's like, I think last time I checked was like $70 billion. So that's going to buoy their share price considerably, right? So I think a lot of people are overly pessimistic, and that pessimism, I was glad to see it today, to be honest with you. Because what could have been a downward trend next week kind of just got brought forward, right? So now Google and Facebook, the expectation is set to be lower next week. So now what's going to happen is, if they beat guidance, or if they even are in line with guidance, they'll rally and they'll go upward, right? So that's what I think is going to happen next week.
Sachin, your thoughts?
So I think I agree with Chris that the yardstick that we are using for Snapchat and Google is a bit different. Facebook, I would say, is a more akin with what Snapchat earnings will indicate, and we saw, I mean, in the past, like Snapchat has been touted as one of the market taker from Facebook. Now, Google, I think one thing which people have to focus more on the ad revenue is that how their enterprise revenue is actually increasing. Okay, because that is one sector where they are putting a lot of effort. They have given in past a lot of market to Microsoft. Okay, and that is to me is the because if, like I said, I mean, all the clients I have talked in terms of cloud business, technology wise, hands down, people say Google is the best. Okay, but we also know that in terms of like go to market strategy, and there are certain other issues that hasn't helped them in capturing market. So for me, the Google, I think ad revenue for them is it being incumbent. People if have to spend revenue, and at this particular time, if when you'll be, like Chris said, you'll be spending revenue more on mature customers than teenagers. I think a lot of these people are actually using Google more than Snapchat or Facebook in general. So I'll be surprised if we see that kind of a revenue drop or earning surprise in Google. Facebook, yes, I would expect. I mean, there is going to be a bit of surprise there, but also we need to remember that Facebook has already been in a heavy decline market. I mean, they have dropped a lot. So the question is, the investors will be asking is it going to be worse than they expected, or is it going to be better than they expected? So even if it is bad, I will not expect them to fall as much as Snapchat did. And in case of Google, I will definitely not expect, I mean, this kind of fall. Okay, back to you guys.
So Sachin, real quick before we go to Dom, why aren't you buying Google at all? I mean, I know you're all in Palantir, but is Google not an attractive stock to you at all?
Google is not a 10x stock. I mean, if I need to invest in a company, I need to see a scenario where a company can actually go to a 10x. It goes, it doesn't go, that's a different story. Okay, I mean, tomorrow, like if I have plenty of money where I decide, okay, I can spend 80% of my time in on a yacht, then I'll go for safer companies like Google. I am not there yet.
Okay. Yeah, that would be like a 20 trillion company, or there would be a big company if Google 10x's.
Yeah, again, again, it's like everyone has a different risk appetite and objective. Okay, 5 years back, I was thinking of retiring at 65. 3 years back, I decided to retire at 45. So things change, my investing change along with that as well. So what you are looking, I think what is more important is that you need to understand what kind of risk you get with an investment. Okay, Google is a safe investment. Okay, like I said, the companies which are big tech, they have very preferential treatment from different governments, especially US. So you'll always have a kind of a continuity, the large cash generating machine. So it's a good investment. There is no doubt about it. It's not what I'm looking for. Back to you.
Dom, any thoughts on Snapchat?
Yeah, I love what Sachin just said there. You know, investing is personalized. Everyone has different time objectives and what they're trying to achieve. I never gotten into Snapchat, never used it. You know, when I was a manager, all the younger employees were using it. I just don't see the importance of it. There's so many other, you know, communication solutions out there. Um, and I want to invest in companies that are changing the world and are multifaceted and have a lot of different um, revenue streams and optionality. So Google would be something I would be more interested in. I don't have any shares of Google. I've thought about it, but I think I'm kind of still in the same boat, similar to Sachin. If I have $1,000, I'm gonna put that probably towards something closer to a Palantir or Snowflake or AMD or Nvidia, something that definitely I'm going to see more acceleration quickly. But I do think that there was an overreaction in the market. So, for instance, one of my favorite stocks that I hold in my top 5 or 7 spots is the Trade Desk. The Trade Desk went 7% down, and this happened last quarter, and they were the only ones in the ad business that actually had a beat. They have 98% retention rate because they're a broker in between the on-demand side. And for the last 7 years, they've had a 98% retention rate with the firms they work with. So, that's a good opportunity if you don't own any of the trade desks. Young CEO, founder led, Jeff Green, and I don't think anyone else knows the ad business as good as he does.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Last one to cover. We've got Tesla. So the market rallied really heavy. I think by Wednesday we were at like just phenomenal numbers that we were even today morning, right? We were 399 on the S&P. So we were that 1 point away from getting to 400, which I feel maybe just subjectively, psychologically, that's a really cool thing for the market to see the S&P above 400 after a long time. Now, Tesla, they did decently well. I mean, they rallied up to like 850. They got through the 700 range in the 800s. Then the market crashed a little bit more later today. So first of all, I know, Dom, you have a lot of Tesla. How did you feel about the earnings?
Yeah.
And ultimately, do you think Tesla can sustain the market rally? Because if Tesla can't sustain, obviously the market's not going to be able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can. I think it was a very good earnings call, well articulated. What's concerning in the short term is that had they not sold that Bitcoin, they were not free cash flow positive. So it looked a lot cleaner and a lot nicer on the books than what it was. At the same time, I'm not holding Tesla for a year's return or 5 years return. I'm holding it for a very long time. And it was really nice to see Elon so dialed in to the nitty gritty details, as always, within the company when he's talking about the seatbelt tension feature that they activated through the software update. So because it's camera based and not LiDAR, if it anticipates a crash, it's going to provide tension on those seatbelts, providing a faster response to save lives. And so that was very encouraging. The other piece that was very encouraging was, keep in mind that Shanghai was down. They want to add on to the Shanghai factory to increase production. Berlin and Austin are still ramping up. Fremont just set records of 2 million cars created now officially. And they're still bullish on getting to their 50% growth rate. In order to do that, they have to basically have a near flawless next 2 quarters, which is going to be interesting. But to my guy, Chris, hey, that's what DCA is for. If they don't make it, great. I get a little bit lower. But I also think Elon is really strategic and not letting in on everything and playing all his cards like he normally doesn't. He keeps a couple ace of spades in his back pocket. He said with the math, he feels confident that they could do 43,000 cars on average for the next 6 months. If they do that, they will blow past the 940,000 or whatever the commitment was on the total cars for the year. They will blow past that. So short term, they have to basically be flawless. Long term, I think they just have so much. I mean, the fact that their operation margins and their growth margins are so much higher than everybody else's, even with the supply chain issues and everything else, I just think they're on a whole nother level when it comes against car companies.
Real quick super chat from Prakesh Damodaran. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Thanks for keeping this going, keeping this going, boys. Thank you so much for the super chat. Sachin or Chris, anyone you can take it. Thoughts on Tesla?
Let me go first. Thanks for Prakash Damodran. Let me get his name right. If I
got it right.
See,
Sachin got a little bit more on the Indian accent than me.
Yeah. See, I think we saw what happened in Shanghai. So everyone knew that this particular quarter, Tesla was not able to go all guns blazing. So it was expected to be a slower quarter. The question for everyone was having is how much slow. I think the way people need to judge Tesla is following. Are they building any inventory? If you are not building any inventory and you are selling everything you are making, you are growing faster than every other EV car maker, you are a leader in this industry. And if EV is going to replace the gasoline industry, what kind of multiples and what kind of projection you are going to put on a leader? So that is the first part one. The second part is that while people are trying to copy Tesla and some of them are doing it very successfully, nobody actually knows what's going into Tesla's upcoming projects. Like few months back, nobody knew that there is something like Optimus Prime is working, or how good their AI vision is going to be. Okay, or do they have a plan to make a generalized AI? Okay, The next part for Tesla, which is very important, is that the Tesla has to maintain the margins. I think margin is one area which, due to inflation, was a bit of concern in the coming quarter. But the first rule for margin is always is that you need to build a scale and you need to build the repeatability. Okay, this is what they have done in past, and this is what they expected to do.
Hey, Saj, I have a question on that. I have a question on that for you because I know you follow them very closely. So they had 27% margin, operating margin, and they've been averaging above 30, actually at 32% previous to that. What commentators are saying who follow the stock very closely is, once full capacity goes on, and China's on full on, and they obviously are trying to expand that area too. And then if they get Austin and Berlin, really rocking and rolling, their operating margins will grow. And then on top of that, if they start adopting next year the 4680 batteries, that's also supposed to impact the operating margins. So is it possible we could see this company hitting, 35, 40% operating margins here in, 18 months from now?
I wouldn't say that it's unlikely, but I would say that reaching anything above 35% in 18 months due to high interest rate, the inflation, the energy and all, it's a bit tough. Okay, the reason for that is, see, even if you see the material, the supply chain, I think there's a lot of cost involved here. Okay, the only way they can increase the margin now is by reducing the cash cycle they have. That means how fast they make a car. Okay, so how fast they ramp up. Okay, one of the reason the margins were less also in this quarter, because see, margins is coming out of your cost, and a lot of cost is sometimes fixed cost. Okay, if you're producing less cars, your margin per car is actually going to go down. Okay, they have not reached the scale, especially in Shanghai and the upcoming two factories. So there is definitely a chance to improve margins a lot. But they also need to consume a lot of material to build these cars, and material is expensive at this particular point. Also, Tesla is on attack by right and by left, by media. So every story has been spun off in a very different way. And of course, I mean, there is a bit of quirkiness that comes with Elon, which is creating a lot of distraction also. But I think at this point, it is very important to see Tesla as a company on itself, as an institution, sometime away from Elon. I mean, if you start doing that and how it is doing, like if you see Ford saying that we are going to do 600,000 cars by 2023. I mean, knowing Ford and what they have done, everyone knows that, okay, it's very unlikely they will reach that target, because that's what they are going for. And they have not delivered things ahead and larger than they promised. So people and competition, nobody is even trying to compete with them in Tesla. I mean, everybody loves saying that we are going to compete. Tesla, Volkswagen can every 2 years, and they say, oh, we'll be Tesla in next 2 years. Then after 2 years, they come again and they say, okay, we'll do it again in 2 years. At this point, nobody is competing them. That's the reality on the ground. Okay, when the competition will actually come, we'll see Tesla will have to reduce prices in certain areas. They'll have to change the product. They need to more diluted product, and that is not happening at this point. So yes, there are a lot of companies coming in EV market, but EV market is expanding faster than Tesla is expanding. So there is no competition for Tesla, at least at this particular moment. And I totally agree with your point on the vision. I mean, like I said, it's a bet they have made. But if their bet is successful in terms of building autonomous cars based on vision, yeah, they have already wiped out all the LiDAR market. That's
So Sachin, I have another question for you on that. I see a lot of comments floating in. I love talking about Tesla and Palantir because people either love them or hate them. There's very few in between. And there's a lot saying, that, hey, they have other EVs coming out. They're going to grow. Tesla people they're so, religious about it. But I'm looking at this from a technology perspective. I'm not looking at this as an automobile perspective. And when I look at this, tell me another EV that's going to have a $200 per month reoccurring revenue with software updates, and they sell a Tesla to someone else, used car, and then they got to buy their software updates and everything, and that's just straight profit, right? And then you look at their network that they have the largest charging network and continue to expand that continuously. And then we look at what they're doing with starting to look at refining possibly even lithium. They said, hey, on the call, if they don't get it done, we'll go do it. Like that was their words exactly. Like, that is one of the biggest challenges that are going to come up with EVs in general. And Porsche just came out with their EV, and everyone thought that this was going to be, they had 5 years to look at Tesla's model and try to mimic and make it better. And the commentary was the software wasn't as good, there wasn't as many features, it didn't look as nice on the inside. So do you see that as kind of a moat in itself, in that the software and what they got in the network, how is anyone going to compete with that from a network and software perspective?
There's only
So,
one thing I'd like to say about Tesla before you guys go on to the next thing. The same arguments that are being made against Tesla are the same arguments that I saw being made about Apple around 2012. Oh, there's going to be other competitors. Oh, the smartphone makers, they're waking up to it. Android's going to come and take so much of their market share. Where's Apple today? It still takes a lion's share of that thing. There's a point where there is a premium EV segment that Tesla has captured, and it's not going away. There's going to be this huge demand for their cars going into the future just because of the transition to EVs. But then there's also brand loyalty and everything else that comes along with it. Just like you said, the charging infrastructure. So when I look at Tesla, I see a lot of what I saw in Apple in 2012, right? So if you are thinking, well, you know what, this is a consumer products company like Apple, look at their margins, look at everything else. I think Tesla has the ability to really go high up there. Now, in order for that to happen, though, the execution risk is up there. So I would say, yeah, does Tesla have the potential to 5x from here? Sure, it does. But, I think it's in a more difficult position to do it because of the nature of the car industry and the car business along. The other good thing is that Tesla doesn't have a lot of the legacy costs that the other auto manufacturers do, whether that be corporate debt that's on their balance sheet or union contracts that are pretty much like adds to a lot of cost. This dealership network where they have to like pay these guys regardless of whether or not they have something. So there's margin expenses, and then they have marketing costs. I mean, the thing that Elon did with Tesla is very special in that he actually flipped this whole script of selling cars in the first place. It wasn't just, oh yeah, he made an EV and sold it to the masses. He actually changed the entire business model of cars. So unless there are other companies out there that have similar business models that they operate under, they come around. I don't think that Tesla's going to have a competitor anytime in the next couple of years. The closest that I think I would see is something like Rivian. Rivian has Amazon sitting behind it, willing to do a lot of the investing, the heavy lifting in terms of investing, and also build and help build out infrastructure in the future. So I think right now, Google, I don't know where Google is with their EV because I think they were supposed to do it. Apple might come up with their EV. That's another rumor that's out there. So there's a lot of things that might come around in the future where yeah, you have bigger companies, especially tech companies, that are going to be competing against Tesla. But I don't think Tesla has to worry about the legacy automakers at all.
No, I agree. I agree with Chris. I think I cannot explain next part by revealing one of my investing secret. See, I don't invest in companies where employees and CEOs are not obsessed about it. And that is the difference between Tesla and Ford and Porsche. Tesla is all in. Their employees are all in. Their CEO is all in. They will do whatever it takes. And this is what GM, Ford, Porsche, they don't have it. They always keep thinking, okay, how much we commit, how much we should go in, should we commit 25 model? Tesla answer is very simple. We are all in. I never invest in a company where I don't see CEO or employees with that kind of mentality. And that is one of the biggest difference. The second thing is, can a company replicate everything what Tesla is doing? In paper, yes, they can replicate. But they are not going to build FSD by themselves. So that means they will license it from somewhere. So they will need to give margins for them. Then you also have to ensure that suddenly you are providing 10 products. which Tesla provides, and for that you are relying on 6 different partners. So 6 different partners have different operating system, different supply chain. You cannot move as nimble as fast as Tesla is moving. You have to put this thing together in your car, and somebody has to take a focal responsibility for that. So customer service is going to be a bit of nightmare compared to what Tesla is having. So yes, I mean, in theory you can do it, but that's why I say that vertical integration is done, and we discussed it last time also, that when you can create value on top of everything else, and that is exactly what Tesla is doing. Okay, what is more important at this particular point is, and what is that Tesla has to come up with their Cybertruck, because the truck market has been opened. Okay, Rivian is there and they are capturing this market a bit. I mean, Ford is coming on with their, I mean, people who want to buy truck, they buy truck. They don't buy a sedan or they don't buy Model X. I mean, that's how it is. People who buy SUV, they buy SUV. Okay, people who buy sedan, they buy sedan. They don't change their preference that easily. So at this particular point, I think ramping up the rest of the 2 factories is probably the biggest bull or bear flag for Tesla, that how fast they do it. Okay, and how
For the
fast
short
they do
term.
it. Yeah, and how fast they do it, given all the misinformation and negativity that has been propagated against them, both by politicians and I mean the media channels in general. So let's see how it goes. Back to you guys.
All right. I love that point you said about being all in. I think if a company is all in terms of their thesis and the employees rally behind that, then it's something exciting to invest in at the end of the day. Which brings us to Palantir. We think Palantir is a company that is all in on their mission. Raymond James, a analyst for or a stock analyst in general, wrote an article on Seeking Alpha, or put out an analysis that Palantir is a cultural unicorn. He sees them doubling to $20 from here. And he sees that they have a $120 billion total addressable market. That does not include China or any of these other things. So he says the TAM is pretty big. There's one thing unique that he said. The company nearly doubled its revenue from 2018 to 20, crossing the $1 billion sales mark. And we believe the company will nearly double it again and flirt with the $2 billion revenue mark in 2022. Even though it was formed in 2003, in 2018, 3 events occurred simultaneously that led to explosive growth. A favorable ruling by courts on government acquisitions. Foundry moved beyond being a bespoke product, and the company built a direct sales force. This comes after the Bank of America sales analyst, I think like 3 weeks ago, said Palantir should be initiated as a buy. How do you feel about some mainstream coverage coming on the stock to move it more towards the upside, and in general, a little bit of the tide shifting towards positivity towards Palantir? Let's go with Chris. You can go first.
Yeah, I mean, all the bullish reasons that they listed, I think, I think we're in a good position where we are in Palantir to capitalize on further gains. I think for me, I'm going to be looking for a lot more business talk next week to see what their future plans are in terms of growth. The numbers I think will come up strong. What I've been seeing is a lot of contracts. You guys know we're on the Twitter chat, and we constantly are seeing re-upping of contracts with increases, modifications. The whole war in Europe thing is probably lending well to their expansion in that area. So I don't think the revenue is going to be a big issue. I think they're definitely going to perform well on the revenue front, which should see the stock, go up a good amount on earnings, especially if they beat pretty significantly. But I think what for me right now is like I want to see some business updates. I want to see them create a freemium tier so that more people can adopt it. I want to see them, have a more vibrant developer community. I want to see them take the steps necessary for them to be an exponential grower and not just a company that's going to hobble itself in the future. The other thing is I also want to see if there's going to be any slowdown in terms of their revenue growth, right? If they have been adamant on saying this 30% growth target, they got pretty close to not meeting that last quarter. So if they fall below that, what is going to be the justification behind it? Like, what are they going to say if it does happen? I don't think it's going to happen, but if it does, what are they going to say? So like I said, I'll be very curious to listen in on this earnings and see where they go with it. But the one thing I'll like I said to you guys, I don't really care about the stock price. I'm DCAing. I think this is one of those companies that 5 years from now, we're going to be looking and saying, wow, you bought Palantir at $10? That's crazy. And the reason why is probably going to be like they're generating 5 billion in free cash flow, and they're using cash flow to buy stock again, and then just like any other big tech story. Right now, that cash flow number, you guys see it, is constantly growing, right? So so don't look at the stock price too much these days. Just DCA.
Sachin, your thoughts on this new article?
So, see, at this particular point, saying that Palantir is going to be 13 or 10 or 20, I think it's pretty much everyone's opinion. Okay, I mean, which opinion we go for? I mean, I was even disappointed to say that nobody even has courage to put a price target which is more than $20. So that was my reaction to it. See, so one of the thing again, when I invest in companies, I always try to look into their LinkedIn, and I try to see like who has joined recently, what kind of positions that are coming. So if you see there are a lot of positions that are coming in engineering but very few in business development and sales, it tells you like, okay, they're cooking something. When you see that the more positions are coming in BD and sales along with engineering, that say you are about to launch something. So at this particular point, I mean, if you go to Palantir has nearly 120 positions in BD, sales, and communications. I mean, like 150, or they even want to recruit more people They want to recruit more recruiters. So that's an expansion phase, which is telling that they are not able to reach the market they see as of today. That means there is more money on the table than they are actually able to reach at this particular point. And putting a cap to that is 2 billion or 3 billion, I think it's a marker that Palantir has built for themselves. The challenge they have is, and we discussed about this thing in past, at the time of their S1 filing, they discussed about 119 billion of TAM, and everybody quotes it. But what they also said, that's 119 billion of TAM of companies that are spending more than $5 million annually. Now, since 2020, government and different companies have actually committed to spend more. So that 119 billion actually has a spend. Then they came up with the products which were like IBM Cloud Pak, AWS, Google. And Google is not selling a $5 million product of Palantir. So that is whatever Google, AWS, and IBM has, that is on top of that. Then what we talk about Foundry for Builders and their SPAC investment, these companies are not paying $5 million ticket also because they are a part of a strategic investment part. So that is an additional TAM on top of it. Okay. Palantir has also not discussed about the TAM, that particular kind of time coming from CI/CD market. Okay, so the whole idea that that the TAM is $120 billion is quite an understatement. If you take any digital technology, be it digital twin, be it AI, be it IoT, be it SD, everything is growing in double-digit CAGR. Okay, when you put these things together, you are looking for a TAM that is going to be 500, 700, 800 billion dollar. Okay, in by the time we reach 2030. So this idea, like how much of the TAM they are actually going to capture, and my view is like if that kind of TAM, even if they capture like a 2.5%, we are still talking of like a $20 billion in revenue. So what is stopping them? They are themselves are stopping them. They need to actually go and put more effort to actually start. I mean, we discussed, and Chris has also shared, and Dom knows because he is in the sales and industry. A lot of people still don't know about Palantir, and that is a challenge. A lot of people in developer community want to touch their product, they cannot touch it. So these are two of the biggest bottlenecks they need to address. People don't know you, why they will buy you. People don't know you, why they will develop their products on you. So that is something where we need to see more effort. So they are growing. I mean, their revenue is growing definitely. I would expect this quarter to somewhere close to $500 million. If that happens, that's a good point. In terms of multiples and revenues, I mean, they are at a heavy discount compared to their peers. So for them, if you believe that a company can go 2 or 3x from here, yeah, I mean, on average in this industry, then yeah, Palantir should go 3x to 4x from here, just to, because at this point, this peer discount will disappear at some particular point. And to me, that's the opportunity in Palantir at the moment. Back to you guys.
Dom, any thoughts you have on this new article or anything unique to say about it?
Yeah. I'm just looking at all these other new. I mean, I swear, like last 2 weeks, there's been like constant articles, people writing either hold. There's more bullish from the community overall on long-term hold and what the company's doing. Um, I think there's very few companies that are making noise in the industry every single day with new renewal contracts. And to Sachin's point, these are large contracts. You talk about what Project Titan could be from the Army contract. You look at Micron adopting the Athenia project with Merck, and you look at what they're doing with Trimfigure and some others. So I think there's a lot of revenue that we're yet to see in the expand stage. And when I was talking with one of the account execs at Palantir, because I've been actively trying to, get them to possibly be a provider for our company, they can modularize Foundry for a more affordable cost to get in the door with customers. Where it gets expensive and where it grows is really creating the digital ontology to where it now is this living, breathing AI platform that I can get everything I need, right? You can combine CRMs and can combine data lakes and get information a lot easier and pay not that much from them. So I just think that, to Sachin and Chris's point, their biggest challenge right now is brand awareness in the market for IT developers. A freemium market would really help that out. And then making a big, even doing road shows, right? Like let's just be at RSA, be at Gartner, be at all of the things that everyone else expects to see. AWS Reinforce is happening in Boston next week. They should be there, but they don't have a booth there. And they're a big partner of AWS's. So I think they're getting there, but keep in mind, they're also very high revenue per employee, and they have a small staff of 3,000 plus people. I almost am just starting to feel like they're just making sure that they're hitting their 30% growth and they're not taking on too much than what they can handle at the moment. And I know shareholders don't want to hear that. They want this thing to fly high quick, but I almost think they're taking it a very methodical approach to knowing when they can fully open this whole thing up. Or at least that's what I'm hoping.
Sachin, you mentioned you wanted to talk about Data Robot when it came to Palantir. You can go ahead and discuss that.
So I think few people know about the company Data Robot in general. Data Robot is a private company, and I say like if you wanna take quite a peer group of companies that compete with Palantir, especially in the data space part. For example, we talk about Snowflake, we talk about Databricks and Data Robot. So Data Robot has been quite a competent company. There are a lot of things they do are pretty good. They what they call like their AI cloud. Okay, is one of its kind. Okay, now what is going on in Data Robot at this particular point is that recently their CEO Dan Wright has resigned, and the idea came like because a lot of insiders were actually selling their shares. Now company is private. Okay, that means when a company is private, you cannot sell your shares easily, especially if you're an investor, and you actually learn quite late that people from insiders who are selling it. Now company at this particular point is valued at 6.3 billion. Okay, now how does it impact in terms of balance? You see, when you have a company that is a peer competitor and that runs into this kind of negative sentiments and corporate governance, it actually affect their customer relationship at some point of time. Like if a Dan goes, that means the relationship Dan has with a lot of CEOs and a lot of other companies, it also get hampered also by the time. So what happens in this time is that company has to kind of reset themselves. So at this point, Data Robot has to clear their own mess, which creates opportunity for Palantir to capture some of the market, especially in the AI data cloud. And let's see how they do it. And again, it's a challenge. Like a lot of companies claim that what they to be, but to keep that doing day in, day out is difficult. And to be honest, Data Robot is a quality company. It's not just another startup. I mean, I really like them, and I hope they come out of this mess soon.
So Sachin, are you claiming the CEO is stepping down because there's a lot of internal issues in the company?
See, when something like this happen, when people attack CEOs internally, okay, there are things which are not clear in the public. So definitely there are some internal issues. These internal issues could be the corporate politics, how the corporate governance is running, or how the company is structured at time. It should not reflect on their product. Their product is good, but it does affect reflect on the morale of people. And one of the things we were discussing about, like, all in kind of culture, okay, it suddenly raises question on that part. Okay, see, we discuss about this company, like 6.3 billion in a data AI space is nothing. Okay, it's nothing, no valuation if you have one of the leading product. I mean, Databricks is nearly like 40 billion. Okay, Harness, I mean, which is starting a CICD, is already 3.7 billion. We are expecting these companies to become like 50 billion, 100 billion at some point of time. So when you make a large sale, it reflects two things. That probably you are looking, I mean, maybe you are in need of money. You could, that could be one thing. But if several people does it, the challenge is that you may not be looking to stay long with the company, or you really think there is going to be a cap soon. So that's where the dissent comes from. It's a good company, and anything happens with this company and product, it's an opportunity for Palantir. So let's see how they do it now.
Got it.
Back to you.
I want to talk a little bit about the TAM, this $120 billion TAM. I think, Sachin, when you mentioned that the TAM is relatively understated, given the places Palantir operates in, which is not just big data, AI, and like machine learning, but like all the verticals that are associated with that, whether it's blockchain technology, healthcare, energy, supply chain, logistics. I mean, there's just so many different places. That's why I invested. I saw them as this like ETF for all these different places if they just capture little parts of that market. If that's the case, and the TAM, let's say, is 400 billion, your argument is essentially the premium that a tech company gets for capturing even a couple percentage points of that TAM is just so monumental because it's a tech company and not just like a value stock, that $10 is almost, it would be undervaluing it at that point, right? Which is why there's not a difference between 10, 13, or 20 by 2030.
See, again, like I said, the TAM is an assessment, and how do you do it is everybody's their own preference. The question you start is, sometimes you start in a very, very abstract way. So ask yourself, what will it take Palantir to actually get a revenue of $50 billion per year? Okay, the first thing is, the $50 billion revenue can only come if companies and government is actually spending that kind of money. So what are the evidence that you are looking that kind of expenditure is actually increasing? We have seen what happened in the government arena. I think there is enough evidence that kind of expenditure is increasing. If you read the filings of most of the companies, most of the projections, like even Google and Microsoft, everybody is saying how this market is going to go expand with different parts. There are things we don't talk about Palantir because they are not sexy. Like, for example, I mean, RPA, the robotic process automation. If you try to do it in Palantir, I mean, it's pretty cool. It's pretty simple. Okay, you'll be surprised that RPA itself is such a large business, but we like to talk about cool things. Okay, digital twin is something everybody talks about it. Everybody says it's new. How many digital twin you have actually seen in your real life? Okay, because the challenge for digital twin at this particular point is that in order to make something living, you need to put a lot of data and analysis and models together, and very few people have actually going to do it. Okay, so when you are looking for a digital twin, very complex scenario, a lot of digital twins I see, they are very limited in what they do. Okay, a lot of people have their own, this BIM they call the digital twin. So I see a lot of evidence. Okay, and I mean, I have done a lot of analysis recently for different projects also, like that, how these markets are going to expand. So it is going to expand a lot. I mean, how many AI tools are you using at this particular point? Okay, I mean, why don't you use an AI assistant? So the expenditure is increasing, and this is why I say that they have a better product if they get their go-to-market strategy right. And to be fair, I mean, I really like their go-to-market strategy head, Alok. I mean, I had the pleasure of meeting him once and having a brief chat with him. they are improving on that part. So is their TAM expanding? Yes, their TAM is expanding, and it's expanding faster than anyone else at this point, because they are present in a lot of categories, and then they have products which nobody else offers as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm quite certain that they will capture a big portion of it. Okay, back to you.
Yeah, that's not also to mention if they actually come out with a consumer product as well. This is just like all assuming B2B.
Hold on, real
Chris,
quick.
go. John, go ahead. Yeah.
On that comment of TAM. TAM can be very misunderstood. And to Sachin's point, when we look at what we talk about typically with them and the ontology and the commercial business and what we do know, what's shared with us with Gotham, there's a lot that's not shared. And I think our world's getting more complex from a government perspective. And I think we will continually see more government spending on defense, NATO, Western allies. But the other piece, to exactly what Sachin said, was with just as an example with RPA, you know, Appian's a company that does RPA. UiPath does RPA. That's a market that's budding and growing rapidly, and Palantir's not in that Gartner quadrant yet. They haven't made that a focus. Can they do it and do it well? Yes. Foundry can do so many different things, and I haven't got my hands on it. I wish, that's something I need to. Hey, Palantir, if you're watching, I'd like to get my hands on it. I know Alex and CodeStrap have their hands on it, but from what I've heard from them, it can do so many different things, and you can almost feel the 17 years that went into this of the platform and then moving over to Foundry, that when they say in the earnings calls that like they're solving problems that people don't understand yet, some of those problems that are going to evolve in the next 3 to 5 years are, okay, we're using Snowflake for X, Y, and Z doing this. We're using UiPath for RPA. We're using this. At what point does it get? It's almost like your TV, CTV subscriptions. How many TV subscriptions you need before it's like, man, I'm spending more than I had when I had a cable, subscription of a local cable channel with Comcast, and now I'm like glued to my TV 24/7, right? And so I could see them really starting to open up in the enterprise market and continuing to showcase these industries they're capturing, and that trickle down effect. So it's not fast now, but I think they're a lot smarter than we give them credit for knowing the industries. I still want them to do things like freemium, getting the word out, branding, being like everybody else to some degree when it comes to getting, your name out there. But from a technology and engineering standpoint, there's a reason why that stock-based compensation is so outrageous. They do get some of the best talent in the world. And I think that they're slow playing some of the product releases and things. Like they're playing chess while the software industry is playing checkers. Back to you.
So just to add a couple of things to Dom, like most of these markets, if you see, like for example, I'm looking the numbers in front of me, like AI at scale. I mean, in industrial sector, it is growing at 38% CAGR per year. 38% is a lot. I mean, if you see ML ops, I mean, it is growing at a CAGR of around 39.25% per year. Okay, if you see in general, like if I'm looking data fabric and the data mesh industry, okay, it is going to go 4x in next 6 years. I mean, these industries are growing at such a faster pace, and we are talking of industrial. We're not talking of the government sector at all at this particular point. So the TAM, I mean, even if you take 25%, I mean, you can make your own adjustment, like how much it is going to grow. It is far bigger than 120 billion odd number that they stated in their S1. Okay, the question for everyone is that how much they are actually going to catch out of it. I think that's where the X factor lies. Back to you guys.
Chris, your thoughts?
I think I agree with some comments in the chat. We need Andrew Tate on Team Palantir, dude. That
Yeah, I
guy
thought
is
that was
everywhere.
hilarious.
That if Andrew Tate was out here shilling Palantir, dude, Palantir would beat Google, man. That guy.
So first off, let me give a little bit of context. I don't know if Sachin and Dom know who Andrew Tate is. He's basically this
Of
guy.
course, they know who Andrew Tate is, man.
Do you guys know who Andrew Tate is?
No?
No, they don't know. Chris, they don't know. They're not on TikTok. They're not.
No, I
following
don't
that.
know.
Andrew
You
Tate
got-
is this guy who's basically rising to popularity in the social media world because he's saying this outrageous stuff about women in terms of like,
Whoa, it's not outrageous. if
okay,
it's
all right,
true.
we're not gonna get into
All
that,
right.
but he says some alpha male type of masculinity type. So I read an article today. He has a Discord. He charges $50 a month for his Hustlers Academy. Okay, about 80,000 people have signed up to be part of his Hustlers Academy. Now,
what is he peddling again?
well, he's selling them like essentially how to get rich. I mean, that's what the website is, like how to get rich, how to take advantage of your life, all this stuff, right? So
More
what
power
he
to
does
him.
is he gives away his podcast content for free to these 80,000 people that he says, hey, if you promote my content, you can have an affiliate link to the Hustler Academy, and for every $50 they get a commission. So you have 80,000 people posting his crazy content everywhere, which is a genius marketing plan, but it's led to the proliferation of this guy. And I think Chris's point is we need Palantir to have this type of marketing plan, basically.
You know, I mean, this sounds to me like a Ponzi scheme or the,
Well,
the
yeah.
network marketing scheme.
No. Hold on. It's not a Ponzi scheme. The guy teaches not like, oh yeah, like an MLM, like go get another 5 guys to join this. Like that's not how he does it. Some of the stuff that he says is actually very valid. Like here's an example. If you're trying to get somewhere as a guy, before you go out there looking for a really hot girl and all this other shit, you should be focused on yourself. You should go to the gym. You should work out, not be lazy. Take care of your body. Take care of yourself. Dress well. Because if you don't do that, then what are you expecting from the other side, right? So it's like it's common sense things that he's promoting out there, but it's weird that in this day and age, common sense seems like really good advice. I don't know. You know.
That's true. That's true.
I'm hoping that Chris was just stating that what he was
Palantir
really
wants to
trying
market
say
it, basically.
was that he wants Palantir to get out there, get in front of the masses, and everyone to understand the power of it and even know what it is, because a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I mean, there's social media influencers out there that know how to work the algorithms on all social media platforms to get their name out there, right? And to get to the point where they become almost like a recognizable name overnight. So it's things like that.
I don't
that
think
you
a
need.
lot of Fortune 500 CEOs are on TikTok and other things. I don't know, Sachin, that's your world. You tell me.
No, of course they're not. I'm just
Okay.
kidding about trying to get on there like that. But I mean, look at Palantir. You remember the first earnings call? They had Jocko Willink on, right? The former SEAL, right? The motivational speaker. You guys remember that? So
Yeah.
it's not that Palantir is not looking to broaden their reach, you know, in certain things. But like I said, I would say learning from media influencers makes for good content around so that you're not putting people to sleep, right? Or you're not creating things that people are just going to ignore. That's what I would say. I mean, there are other, like, here's an example of people using their platform to do really well. Like an example is this Logan Paul. I hate Logan Paul, but they have a drink now that's out there, right? They're using their platform they're marketing it, and they're marketing things really well. So it's that kind of like a little bit of pizzazz that they need to learn from these social media influencers to get their name out there. I mean, but then again, you know, they're not a consumer product, so it wouldn't make sense. So I'm just commenting to make a comment.
No, but one thing, if Alex Karp had 1 million Twitter followers, this would be a different company. I swear to God, it doesn't matter if you're a consumer company. Tesla, Elon having 100 million people that care about him, that matters.
Yeah, but that's a consumer product.
No, it doesn't
dude.
matter.
This
If
isn't.
Alex Karp had 100 million Twitter followers, you don't think Palantir would be a bigger business?
No.
You really just said that right now.
Yeah, no. Because
If
they're
Alex had 100 million Twitter followers, Palantir wouldn't get more access to CFOs and CTOs and C-suite execs that are at the highest level.
You don't think he gets that right now? Dude, look at your customer who you're trying to sell to. You're not trying to sell software to teeny boppers. You know?
Yeah, but Sachin already said most people, and he's in this industry, he says most people don't know who the hell they are.
Right, but that's the point, that you're trying to get to a point where you're capturing you're trying to get more exposure to people like that.
Yeah, I'm just
Having
saying, if you
100,
have the social
right?
following, I think it's
So
undeniable. You're gonna have more. Sachin, go ahead.
so let
Go.
me let me intervene here. So guys, how long ago you started knowing me? I mean, if you see, nobody knew me about before 2020 because I was literally dormant on social media. And why I was dormant on social media? Because if you are growing in a corporate ladder, you keep your social media clean. Okay, these are people like me who are going to buy things. Okay, so the statement what Amit said and Chris said, this is both true in part, because a lot of people like me, when I was there, we don't take hints from what is happening on the social media, especially in the Twitter space or something like that. I mean, there are few of us. Nothing is 100% right or wrong on that part. Okay, but then there were things also that we started taking notice when there is something is repeating quite a lot as well. So at this particular point, their product is B2B. The industry need to know more about them. They need to reach people. Messaging is a problem for Palantir. Okay, and the reason for that is in their culture, because they were driven so much to hide things and to stay secretive, that when they share two sentences, they think, oh my god, I have done a lot of things today, I should not have said that much. Okay, so the marketing is not in their DNA, and that is what they are trying to build in. The sales is not in their DNA. Okay, and that is, they should so they definitely need, sometime you need an inspiration or blood from outside. I mean, I wouldn't say that to be a social media influencer, but see, there is nothing wrong in going and having a chat. Okay, for example, like if you see Elon Musk and he goes and talk to Sandy Munro, and he talk about battery, and Munro has actually criticized him, and that is one of the best interviews that has happened. Okay, so Elon goes to discuss Joe Rogan. The challenge what is happening is that Palantir is having these chats and discussion either on news channels which are not very entertaining to them. Okay, they
Yep.
only task, or they do it in a very elite setting where they'll go and they sit in a panel where like in a
That
German
Aspens
forum.
interview that Karp did with Andrew Ross Sorkin, it got like 10,000 views, which is nothing. Like,
Yeah.
it's nothing at the end of the day, right?
So at the end of the day, the messaging, at least in terms of reach part, has to improve in one way. And there is good to have an open discussion. I mean, like for example, if you are going to have a discussion in a certain panel, in a certain institute, there is already a lot of decorum. You share the questions beforehand. It's not sometime a free flowing discussion. People want to hear a ground truth at times. They want to ask questions openly. So at least they can try sending some of their people to different forums. Okay, don't talk about politics. Why don't you send your product design engineer to a panel and discuss, like an open panel in a YouTube is fine, where they discuss about like why it is different and what are the different practices we follow, what should different companies should follow when they are looking for a product marketing. You can lead a thought leadership also in this certain center. Like for example, one of the thing which AWS did pretty well, and I think I find it's very inspiring at time is, and people can relate at this point, and we are doing a lot of Zoom meetings in AWS or in Amazon. There is a bar, there is a high barrier of entry before you call for a meeting. Okay, it's not like you need to write this narrative before and you send it this narrative. That means you need to spend time on it. So there are some best practices that comes in, so which you can lead in terms of a thought leadership at times. You need to start behaving like a leader before you become leader. I mean, like Elon was saying what EV industry should do. Elon was not saying all the time what Tesla should do. Elon is saying, I'm doing this because this is how EV should do. I'm doing this because this is how the industry will evolve. I'm disrupting the business model because that will help faster adoption of this. So Palantir at this particular point has not taken that kind of leadership. They have taken a leadership in terms of how civil liberties framework should be deployed in a data environment, but there are a lot of areas which are missing. And actually, no company has taken that kind of leadership at this point. So there is an open space where they can actually move in. So part of messaging and part of social media engaging has a role to play. May not be in a way like we see with other companies, but this is an avenue that has not been explored a lot by them. Back to you guys.
I think the thing that the CEO for Wejo did, I think that was great. Having YouTubers that are specifically focused on certain companies go out there and interview them that have a large presence in like innovation and tech. Like I said, I don't think a 10 million view cat video is gonna do anything for Palantir, right? Like Palantir could tomorrow come up on their channel and have cats running around, and then be like, oh, look at this Palantir channel that's putting cats on everything. No one would care. You can't total reach. Like the total number of views means it's meaningless if you don't reach the right people.
It's not cat videos. Carp did a 54-minute interview, right? If they had hired a really good short form editor for that video, they could get 50 bars, like 50 bars that Carp drops about Russia, China, Ukraine, blah, 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 30-second clips, and just disperse them all over I mean, we know YouTube.
Didn't you do that? Like, isn't your channel full of things like that?
No, but there's a difference. My channel is trying to create a 10-minute dialogue analyzing what the CEO says, which maybe is reaching 3,000-4,000 people that are the same people that have seen the same content for 6 months, that are obviously interested in the company. We know, like, objectively, everyone knows the algorithm on every platform. Instagram has just changed the rule that if you upload a video, it automatically becomes an Instagram Reel, which is their TikTok competitor, is promoting short form video. Why the hell is Palantir not making literally 1,000 short form videos of Carp, who has said amazing things over the past 10 years of public interviews? Hold on, every single week. Why is that not happening? Why is that not happening?
There's content creators that are doing it right. There's this guy Palantir Bite Size that's doing the same exact thing.
No. So Palantir's Twitter account is 114,000 followers. If they had 1 million followers, you cannot tell me that's different. If they had 0 followers and they were tweeting into the void, like, there would obviously be a difference. So there's a spectrum, 0 to 100,000 to 1 million. Well, they need to grow that. And 2 tweets a week with this politically correct, we are proud to announce, but like, no one gives a shit. Like, if they can't figure out social, and I'm not saying they have to because they're a B2B company, but if they did, it would be good objectively. It wouldn't be bad.
Is there all of that? I mean, yes, they could create content and things of that sort. I really want them focused on instead getting their product to be consumable and deployable faster than needing a forward deployed engineer.
Dom, you could do both. You could hire a couple of social.
You can't when you're paying your people so much in stock-based compensation. I don't think they have a massive marketing budget.
This is someone who needs to spend 5 hours editing like short form video. This you could pay this $100,000.
You can do it with an intern. Actually, you see the key part. I think we all can agree is that they need to improve on their messaging, both to businesses and overall. I think that's the key part. And there is how they do it and what works. I think we all can think in our own ways, but we all agree that they need to do more on that part.
Yeah,
they need to hire Amit. That's what they need to do, because Amit's got this figured out.
This video right here. I mean, this from Brian. These videos would be meaningless to close multi-million-dollar deals. I don't know. Maybe it's because some people in the chat are older or something, but like Charlie D'Amelio, we know this girl, right? She has 140 million followers on TikTok. She is 17 years old. She dances. Like, if Palantir could access 1 million people, not 140 million people, I'm not saying it has to be on TikTok. It could be on any platform. That is valuable. It is valuable having 1 million people caring about your company. And if you don't have those people caring about your company on the distribution channels that exist, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, blah, 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 you are irrelevant. I'm not saying you are.
Oh no, man! I work for VMware. We're doing pretty good without any of that.
yeah. But VMware,
I think someone said something in the chat that's really good. He's like, "Do you want Carp to dance? Do a Carp dance." You know?
No. You guys are so wrong on this. It's funny you're so wrong. There are people going viral on TikTok that are not dancing. TikTok is
agree to disagree.
I think
so wrong on this. It's not even funny. You're so wrong on this.
Let's bring it back. Bring it back.
Just to put it in perspective. I mean, like, let's not compare it with see, if you take the AWS channel on YouTube, that has nearly 607,000 subscribers. Okay, so Palantir should have at least, if they are going, I mean, 200, 300 is the mark they should be looking after. So that's a kind of a question they should ask. Okay, why and how to disperse more content to people at least who are subscribed to AWS or who are subscribed to Google Cloud or Microsoft Azure. So there is a community, and that community is definitely not 140 million, but it is larger than what they are accessing as of today. So there is a definite scope to improve their messaging. and they are not doing that in a very, very good way at this point.
Yeah, and it's also a question of the form, right? They have the content. Carp has done hundreds and hundreds of interviews. All they have to do is change the medium of distribution. They spend God knows how many thousands of dollars to make a video with Trafigura that they're working with, and it gets viewed by 3,000 people that are all Palantir fanboys. Versus if you play with the algorithm a little bit, I don't think that's a crazy thing to say, hey, these are algorithms that you need to learn how to work with, and you distribute short form video, and more people know who the hell Alex Karp is, which means it's not that they're going to buy Palantir, but they're going to know about it. Brand recognition matters. And then if they're working for a company like VMware, what is Dom doing? He's trying to get VMware to use Palantir because he knows about it. If he never knew about it, that wouldn't happen.
I mean, you're kind of right on that, but I think in that regard, Palantir did do a good job. This whole Zelensky meeting was like a hit out of the ball. That was amazing.
That was good.
Like
That
literally
was very
every single person in the Western world was like, "Who the hell is Alex Karp, and why is he in Ukraine?" Right?
Yeah,
that was like a masterstroke.
They did not milk that nearly as much as they should have. It was one or two tweets on that same day. Not a single tweet, not a single article, not a single, form of content series like Alex Karp doing an interview about, like none of that. It was just a one-time here and there. And that to me is a failure on social marketing at a high level. And again, I'm not saying social translates to revenue, but it translates to brand recognition, which inevitably leads to some form of growth.
Yeah, but in that regard, I don't think Palantir could have let on too much. Like, this is what we're doing in Ukraine. Like, hey, Russia, we're targeting your tanks like this. Or, hey, Zelensky, why don't you tell them all the great stuff we're doing?
They don't have to say confidential stuff. There's a famous sort of saying in social, which is you learn what you're good at and you say it 87,000 different ways. And that's how you keep people engaged. That's what all content creators do. The same dance.
That's a pretty good saying. That's a pretty good saying.
Good I like saying, but I honestly think that Karp just doesn't give an F. Like, he's focused on, he knows what his mission is, what the company's going to go to. So whether now, I'm not saying that I wouldn't rather have the stock go fast now and get paid while I'm alive, but I'm just saying that he knows the technology is so in advance. Like, he's focused on making.
No, but Dom, you can't make that argument. You cannot make that argument because we've criticized them for months saying the tech could be a trillion times better than anything else. If you can't distribute it, it doesn't matter. So saying Karp's so focused on tech does not hinder the fact that they can pay 3 interns $100,000 each, which is insane to do this, to distribute his content. Like, there is no reason.
I don't even think like his content though is most important. Like, I want to see use cases. Like, I want to see ROI. I want to see, like, tell me more about the BP deal. Tell me more about the deal that you did with Trafigura. Tell me more about how you're changing the water industry. Give me figures. Give me a demo of CodeStrap doing a full.
Yes. Okay. Hold on. All of that I agree with. But if they did everything you said and they got 2,000 views on all 4 of those videos you mentioned, what does that do for distribution? Remember, we're talking distribution here.
But Amit, what do you want them to do? You want to go up to Charlie D'Amelio and say, do a dance while Karp talks about a product?
No. I would just like them to show up at the conferences that everyone else shows up at.
I agree with that. Right now, Palantir does a really piss poor job in showing up to industry events. Okay, that's one of the reasons why people don't know who they are.
I totally agree with that. I mean, this is one of the things which. So I'll give you an example. Like, one of the companies. I was talking and these guys didn't know. I mean, I discussed with them about Palantir. And so, this is a spy company. I said, no, they do such and such things. After a discussion, I was able to set up a meeting at some point of time to meet these guys with Palantir guys. Later on, I learned that now these guys are doing a workshop together. So the thing is, I just try to connect friends. Like what we do in the professional industry. So you have this problem, and that's exactly what I did. See, the messaging is an issue. That messaging has to be focused for your customers, for your industry, but the frequency of that messaging is definitely a concern to me. That how fast it comes and how thick it comes. Sometimes the language is a bit. And the reason it is happening is because there are only very few people responsible for that messaging, and they have actually a full-time role. You need to increase like, the developer channel they started, that's very good. I really like that. And Chris covers it in quite detail, like the different use cases that comes from it. But for example, like, they don't go, like, I would love to go to AWS reInvent and all these events. I was in corporate, I was going to these events, you build lot of network, you enjoy. I mean, some of the best times you go and you have it. So for example, like, I mean, Schlumberger is doing this SIS, like a digital forum, and there's time they are doing in Lausanne, in Switzerland. They have done it in past in Monaco. They bring all of these energy people coming, all the big CEOs are coming, they're talking. It's a very easy environment to actually build that kind of confidence in what they are doing. You meet these people for breakfast, you're staying in the same hotel, you spend the day with them, you see their event, they see your event, you go on drinks, you have. So, these are the things where the relationship actually grows in a B2B environment. When you go for AWS reInvent, I mean, I remember one of my friend, I mean, she was traveling to this event, she was like posting all the videos from there. So that is what is something is missing. You need to build this kind of rapport and that community in the B2B part, in the sales part, in the developer part, and which is not happening at this particular point. So yeah, it's a bit of investment, okay, but this investment is better than publishing your ad on the WSJ. I mean, to me, WSJ print media is dead.
And so hold on. Let me piggyback off one thing Sachin said. I agree they should go to more conferences, but here's sort of my philosophy here, and I really want to see what people in the chat think about this. If the New York Times or WSJ or Washington Post, all these reputable media sources, write a good article about Palantir, we would all agree, let's say they wrote 5 good articles about Palantir a week. We would all be so happy that all this big media coverage is positively representing Palantir. Now, that's not going to happen. There's a lot of political reasons that's not going to happen, but also, I mean, what obligation does the media have to cover Palantir? They don't give a shit. They'll cover anything. So that means in this age, which is the most amazing age to be a human in history, you have the ability to access your own audience. We have democratized the media. What are we doing? We have 200 people watching us at 12 a.m. on a Friday night because we've democratized and we've gained a bit of an audience. There should be no disagreement at all that a company,
all right.
space, hold on, let me make my point.
You've out-debated me. I'm thinking
let me make
in
my
my head,
point.
I'm looking at their developer YouTube channel of only
and it's shit. It's
subscribers.
That's my point. There should be zero disagreement that in this day and age, even if you're in B2B, you should be creating your message, your narrative, propagandizing your ideas. And if you got to do it in a short form video, because that's what the stupid algorithms want, then just do it. Like, if they had a couple million followers, that would be better.
They definitely need to hire some better digital marketeer people. There is no doubt about it.
Andrew Tate. Get Andrew Tate.
Andrew Tate. That's what it is.
No, I agree. I mean, I'll give you credit on this because just in general.
But Dom, there's one thing that I mean, I was critical of them last time I spoke about their developer channel, but I started to ask around the industry, like some of my friends and stuff, and they said, Chris, who do you think uses this stuff? Like, you really think like an average person or even a CTO knows what the hell they're talking about when it comes to data science? Data science right now is such a new field. There's barely 50,000 people that work in data science on like the industry level. Like hardcore data science when it comes to.
I see Sachin ready to jump down.
Yeah.
I mean, hold on. Before Sachin goes, let me set up Chris's argument. Chris's argument is that you don't need to do that much marketing because the market's not that big to get people's attention, right?
No. I'm saying that the people that are going, like, when it comes to their developer channel, the bad job that they're doing is that they're going into the technicals of it, right? Which is very limiting. Like, there's like someone who's like a data engineer would be great to use something like the developer channel, right? What they need is to actually have use cases so that, guess what? A CTO, a CEO, a CIO, they look at it and says, hey, maybe we should get Palantir because of X, Y, and Z. Right now, the people that are like, right now, they're showing people how to do things in Palantir, yet there's no way for you to actually try it. Imagine the people that are going to be looking.
I agree with Chris. I mean,
Number one
why show people if they cannot do it themselves?
Let me show you how to use Windows, but I'm not going to give you the application. Come on, that's the stupidest thing in the world.
So let me jump. I mean, so see, one thing I think everyone, how many of you have actually seen digital transformation in your own organizations? And people who have gone through digital transformation organizations, if you talk them openly, 80 to 90% actually have a very bad taste about it. They say, oh man, they did it and I really feel, I mean, they have no clue about it. So this is one of the things is that people who are doing digital transformations and people, industries. I mean, a lot of people exactly are still not clear what they are trying to achieve with it. I mean, a lot of time people say that digital transformation means digitalization of processes, everything you are doing. No. A lot of time people see that today you are doing something on paper, tomorrow you are doing on app, you did digital transformation. Digital transformation in true sense is disrupting how the business is done, and that is what a lot of industries are not doing it. And that is why digital transformation actually leave a lot of bad taste. People say, oh, I tell you, like, I mean, I have been in companies where I see that they were claiming to be the leader in digital transformation, but the reality was in that particular time, few years back, is, I mean, I was like, man, I'm doing handling like 30 systems. I'm spending 50% of my time in reporting things I don't even care about. So that is one of the things. And you know why it is happening? There are 5 reasons it happened. The first thing is that everybody wanted to capture this idea that, okay, if you go back to 2013, 14, I mean, big tech was so hot, everybody was asking. I mean, today we know that Exxon is nowhere close to Google. But there was a time when this transition was happening and these CEOs were asking, oh, why can't my company win this kind of money? I need to build a digital angle. Okay, but I need to build digital angle with my blue eye boy. Okay, this guy, I like him. He has to be my CDO. He has to be my CTO. The guy has no credentials on that. The second part is the IT used to be a support function. And then they said, oh, now you are going to be the core part of business. These people don't know what to do about it. They have never been part of business. They were always sitting in the basement. I mean, if you have seen the TV series IT Crowd, that's what IT used to be in most of the companies. The third was they say, oh, we need people to do it. From where we hire the people? We hire people from Microsoft, we hire people from AWS, we hire people from Google. Now, these people come and you give them a problem. For them, you give them a problem. Their understanding is, I need to write a code. That means I need to build things. So everybody embarked on this do it yourself kind of solutions. That's how it started. The fourth was, oh, we need to build some sort of products. But now, like, who will build the products? So you need to come sort of consensus. Oh, this is my budget. This budget goes to this department. This goes to this department. And a lot of these are falling. So they know if you raise fingers on each other, the fingers will be raised on you. So you start burying skeletons in the Almira. And that is why we talk about, and Gartner says 87% of do-it-yourself AI solutions fails, because everybody is hiding facts from each other. You say I'm good and I say you are good. It's like scratching each other's back. Okay, that is what we call in the digital transformation first phase, and this is where a lot of failure comes. The fifth part is, since you have invested so much money in your reports, you need to show that we have achieved something. So this is where all the slides and so we spent this much money, this is all the success. People who are doing digital transformation and who are going through digital transformation in the organization, they know it's a lot of pain, and 80 to 90% of it doesn't result in anything. So all the success and all the revenue that we talk about in industry in terms of digital transformation is actually coming from a very small portion. And that is where they need to ensure that Palantir has to ensure that in their solutions and in their work, can they actually make larger success out of it? And this is what the moat, in my opinion, is for this company. Back to you guys.
So Karp needs to get on Twitter. Basically, that's what's the one thing I'll give you, Chris, is that he can't say a lot of stuff because he's such a high-ranking confidential CEO. But to Sachin's point, I think if Karp, gave a thread every week about data analytics, there's no problem with that, right? Then it's just a question of if people are going to retweet it, which a lot of us will, which will get him some more followers and build his brand.
They need is
ask other people like Matt Babin is their energy EVP. I mean, a lot of people in industry knows Matt Babin. I mean, if Matt is speaking about energy once in a while, he did one video. I mean, I was surprised that person of his caliber actually appeared only on that one video in the marketing channel. He's the guy who led and orchestrated the BP project. I mean, and the way he talks about it and the interactions I had with him, it's a pleasure to talk about it. And he'll be appearing in different conferences and all that. So you need to start projecting your domain heads, people who are leading different part of industry. Okay, because someone in energy may not feel comfortable talking to Alex, but he will feel comfortable talking to Matt Babin, because who are these people? Who are your rock stars? I mean, if you remember, like in there was an IBM had this ad campaign, and IBM is saying our rock stars are different, and they will show this guy who created the USB. He's walking through. He's a very normal looking guy, but people are looking to him like you look up star. Okay, so who are your rock stars? Who are your?
So Sachin, let me ask you a question real quick. Does a CEO need to be a rock star in 2022 to become a $500 billion trillion company, or can a CEO be super? I would say Snowflake, Frank Slootman, he's a rock star. Like when you see him talking, he's an absolute killer. Do you think it's required, or can you be under the radar and still be a big company?
No, it's not required. Okay. And it can help and it can hurt also. Okay. I mean, like different companies, what you saw with the Robin Hood, I think it's the CEO Rockstar was actually became a problem for them. So it's see, at the end of the day, it's also like in terms of how the company has to come. A company can have a lot of different leaders. If you emerge, so we know Shyam, we know I mean, like for example, I haven't seen Alok on any of the CNBC or any of the interview. He is the head of their go-to-market lead. Okay, so you need to make leaders, more faces, more people from company talking to different people out of it. Like for example, if you take the case of Ilan is such a towering figure, yet he managed to project, Karpathy as a AI vision leader. Okay, so people were started looking and people were looking what he has said during his time in MIT and things like that. So you need to project leaders. I mean, we're not discussing leadership here, but this is one of the thing which is important is like, for example, you talk about Indian politics, like why a lot of parties sucks because there is only one leader. They don't promote other leaders. Why you talk about BJP because they promoted so many leaders at this time. And so leadership is very important in this part, that how you are grooming the next layer. Okay, people who are communicating, the message has to be consistent. They use the same wordings, they use the same messaging. Okay, and that is where I think they can do a lot more work.
Here's a good comment by Jay Schwat. How much of Palantir's commercial business, in your opinion, is from outbound leads versus inbound leads? That would be a great indicator for us to understand what's working for them. Before I let you guys take that, if you want to, here's one thing for me, right? I think a lot of it right now might be more outbound. They're trying to get access to decision makers and say, hey, we got to sell this product. Karp's entire philosophy on civil liberties in this day and age, where everyone is so concerned about data protection and privacy. I mean, that shareholder letter, if they figured out how to get Karp on these platforms like 100 times a week talking about civil liberties and privacy protection, and he built his own following on that one idea, which is one philosophy of many philosophies that he's able to speak about. I mean, you just have so many random people, even if it's just LinkedIn, because that's the business platform, that are scrolling through that would see this eccentric CEO that they've never heard of before, that they're probably more of a decision maker, because LinkedIn has the decision makers on that platform. That's why businesses advertise heavily there. Shout out to Sachin's dog that made an appearance on the podcast for the first time. And they see Karp talking about civil liberties and data protection. What if one of those business leaders is in Europe? Hold on, Chris, where they really give a shit about GDPR. You don't think they're going to click on the profile, say, hey, who's this guy? A company of Palantir? What's Palantir? Go down the funnel, and in general, over time, maybe that leads to more inbound leads for Palantir versus outbound. I think that only happens if you go get the market, not if you're just waiting around doing one interview every 5 months.
Amit, have you ever emailed investor relations and see if they want to join us on one of these? Just for, I don't even care if they send the janitor, dude. Let's just talk to someone from Palantir. You think they'd send somebody? Because in one of their slide decks, they did say that they're doing more outreach on YouTube, and they did get Alex and they did get Coach Strap, and we've got enough people watching our BS all the time. Maybe we can ask the Palantir folk directly and say, hey guys, maybe you guys can explain.
Look, out of these 189 people, I can guarantee at least, I would say 20 of them work at Palantir right now. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that are working at Palantir that they don't comment in the chat, but they're just looking, they're watching us talk. I think maybe they would send it, but maybe they don't want to be associated with us because we're free falling. We said a lot of crazy shit today about them. We said they suck.
Yeah, but that's exactly why I want them to come and say, you don't know what you're talking about. I would rather hear them tell me to my face, you don't know what you're talking about, than just leaving some dude on YouTube spilling crap that does not make sense. Remember, everything that we're saying is all theoretical. Maybe they do have some kind of grand master plan that we don't know about, that that they can at least even shoot down our criticism. Dude, I welcome them shooting us down on our criticism, because that just means that it just goes to support the product.
So this is how I think, this is where the sales view of a company matters. Okay, so for example, say somebody from Palantir can see that there are 4 dudes sitting on a weekend or Friday night talking about Palantir. But who are these dudes? Okay, Chris, you are leading IT in your hospital administration, so you know what you're talking about, and you could be at least someone. At least you want to have a goodwill. I mean, Dom is running sales in some of the largest companies. Okay, I mean, I advise data strategy to some of the senior most guys in the companies. At least I know my industry well. I led the digital transformation in different companies. Amit is trying to launch a big tech startup. Why his startup cannot be built on Foundry? So what do you see? I mean, see, this is where your the goggles you wear is very important. Okay, now if you see like a lot of times when uh, when and this is where I think Ilan actually shines a lot. He knows how to like engage and people to turn into because he knows like who talking to whom, and a lot of messaging he give to people and a lot of discussions he have. He knows he cannot have that kind of discussion on CNBC, so why to go there? CNBC will only talk about numbers. I'm not going to talk about numbers. I'm going to talk about strategy. Now, CNBC doesn't talk about business strategy. It's a finance channel. It's not a business strategy channel. I think this is one of the big misconception people have.
Yep.
Okay, strategy is always forward looking. Okay, so that is where
numbers get clicks. Strategy doesn't get clicks, right?
Yeah. So what? So invest, like we said, that there's tons of things they can do. There is, if people are not reaching you, and I mean, going back to your question on the inbound and outbound, I mean, they literally had 6 salespeople until 2019. I mean, how do you think? Like the Alex Karp and Peter Thiel has said that CEO was on flight selling and talking. That means it's always the top down sales. Top down sales take a lot of time. There is no bottom up sales, and that's what they are trying to create up here. So that's what I always say. There is a lot of money on the table that Palantir can capture at this time, but they are not doing it. Okay, they are capturing more every quarter, but there is still a lot more. So the risk on Palantir is execution always.
Yeah, and if you, I know you guys have scrolled through LinkedIn and you've seen the Palantir ads. Like I'm pretty sure you have, right? Like if you're scrolling through LinkedIn, maybe I'm one of the only ones. It's a little picture and it's some stupid copy of like, we can help propel your business, some nonsense. I'm like, this ad, it's not even compelling. Imagine if that ad was replaced by a video of Karp that they put 50,000 behind for 30 seconds. He's explaining why they don't work with Russia and China, or how they increase the BP's efficiency in supply chains. I mean, how much more effective would that be? Why is that not happening? You've got a charismatic guy who is speaking on the record, nothing confidential, about what the company's doing, their philosophy, and it's not being advertised. Like, in my opinion, I think that could solve a lot of brand recognition and lead to more sales.
We need Charlie D'Amelio. Let's just get her.
Yeah.
Let's just get Charlie D'Amelio.
It can be even simpler also. Like for example, I mean, BCG published this on their website, so I can speak about it. It's not confidential, but like you'll see, we discuss about consumer sentiments. That means company will go and they will interview a lot of people at a C-suite level and ask them, what is your priority? You will go and discuss like with CDOs, and they will say, okay, these are the top 5 things that CDOs are looking to spend most of their money in next 3 years. The question is that so what messaging you are giving now these to CDOs? You see that of CDO is coming and they are saying we are going to triple our AI revenue in next 5 years. So what is the message you have for these CDOs? So there is how you create your content. You know, when I see Palantir content, and this is my outside in impression, like somebody think I want to share this thing about Palantir in the company, and then they go and say about it. A lot of time they are not thinking what my customer want to listen from me, what they want to know about myself. So it's a very one-dimensional communication at time. It has improved, but it's nowhere near. I mean, like, I don't know how many of you have seen there is a podcast on Spotify, and it is by Snowflake. It's amazing. I mean, if you listen that podcast, you will learn so much about Snowflake and what their customers are doing, or what
how'd you find out about the podcast, Sachin? How did you first find out about it?
I was searching on data strategy, data cloud podcast, and this is how it came to me, because I thought there should be some. Okay, I mean, there was no recommendation to me, which the problem you are trying to solve.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the case. That's what I'm just thinking. It's like, look, I get we're in a world in which algorithms dictate media attention, but you got the smartest people in the world building technology to help stop Ukraine from being destroyed by Russia. You guys can't figure out algorithms on social. Like, come on, man! You can't figure out algorithms on. You can't. Like, this is insane, man. They could have 10x their brand presence in the past year of going public by just being better on social. I don't know if that leads to more revenue, but I know that leads one day to more revenue.
See, the
Charlie
way you look
D'Amelio,
at businesses,
Andrew
yeah,
Tate,
the-
Jordan Peterson.
No, Sachin,
We
go
need to
ahead.
get 'em all.
Chris is saying
We
nothing.
need to get
Go
'em
ahead,
all,
Sachin,
bro.
Go ahead. Sachin, go ahead.
so the way you look at business is following. I mean, like you said, like for example, BlackRock has come, and BlackRock says that next 1,000 unicorns are going to be in the climate space. Okay, when you listen a statement like that, you take a step back and you say, okay, what does BlackRock is saying? What does it mean? If 1,000 unicorns are going to come, and when we talk about unicorns now, we don't talk about companies $1 billion, at least a $10 billion. So even if there is going to be not 1,000, there is going to be 100 companies that are going to above $10 billion and that don't exist as of today. What is my product for those companies? How do I identify those companies? How I'm going to serve share in those companies? So how you look. So what happens in like Palantir way, and again, I mean, it's an outside in view, is they try to see problems like, okay, this is a problem that needs to be solved. Okay. And their idea is like, okay, these customers will be solving, but you can take an entirely different view. Like, okay, exactly what my customer is struggling at this point, what they need to solve as of today. Okay. And for example, like why Snowflake came up with the idea initially that we need to decouple the computation versus storage, because they were seeing people who were dealing with site reliability engineering management with AWS. It was a nightmare. They said, okay, this is not how companies are going to go scale up. Okay, so they came up with a very different idea. Okay, so I'm sure, I mean, Palantir will be doing it. Like I said, it's an outside in view, but that is how you look. Okay, that is how you are going to capture the market, and that is how you go and create messaging about it.
Right. And even this comment right here, get Carp on Lex Friedman. We all know Lex Friedman. I think he gets probably close to 10 million downloads an episode or something. Why do we want Carp on Lex Friedman? Because we know Lex Friedman is Sachin, go ahead. You can answer it. Go ahead.
I mean, the most important part is first, Lex Friedman is an AI expert. He can have a very meaningful discussion with them. He can understand the technology. He is sitting in MIT. So, and again, I mean, reach is one part, but the kind of discussion he can have with someone on the company is, and he is very bold when he asks questions. It's not like somebody you can just push around. So, yeah, I totally agree with that.
So Palantir is a $20 billion company. How have they not accessed this guy? Like this is the thing that blows my mind. You can't access this podcaster and make a request.
And
this is the stuff
Lex Friedman is a kind of a centralist guy. I mean, he is not extreme left. He is not right. I mean, he is open to logic. He is pretty much like guys like him. I mean, left don't like them, right don't like them. I mean, these are exactly the kind of philosophy that Palantir has. So yeah, they should be. And more important, he's an expert in his field. Okay, and he can have a very meaningful discussion about technology with them, and if required, around the philosophy of the company as well.
Yeah. Everyone in the chat's wanting to know what me and Chris think about it. So just like looking, I was just like Googling while you guys were talking and listening, of people in partnerships with Palantir, and there's several companies that are MSPs, managed service providers, integrators. There's one called Unit 8 that really specializes in things like Microsoft and Palantir. There's another one I've never heard of called Tray.io that talks about connecting Microsoft Azure to Palantir and stuff. And I just asked myself, like, to your point, Amit, why are they not screaming this from the mountaintops and having a marketing department and say, okay, we're going to, and this is where Chris's question is. I would love to, I'm going to email some people at Palantir just for kicks. They may not respond, but to come on here and just explain, like, 4 passionate shareholders and 200 others watching on a Friday night.
Ridiculous, bro. Insane.
And because we believe in the technology, we believe in what it's capable of. Obviously, we all want to further our investments, and see those benefits. But like, just the common sense things that other companies are doing, like going to road shows, having your own conference, right? So you already have a Databricks conference, you already have a Snowflake conference, a Microsoft conference, a VMware. I'm going to VMware Explore. We have our conference. So why don't we have a Palantir conference, right? And then you look at, to your point on the social media piece, and I still think they're having good earnings. I just, we're asking here, like, where some fundamental business things are happening. And you look at, low hits on the social media, not enough demos, no freemium models. So I just wonder, like, what departments handle this there, and kind of where is the thought process there and moving forward? And are we going to see some changes there? Because it just seems like very low-hanging fruit.
Yes. Go ahead, Chris. You got it.
No, I was going to say maybe that's one of those things that's going to be covered this conference call, right? What they're doing to do more outreach and engagement. I know the one good thing that I like is a lot of the say.com questions are actually not bad this time. It's not just like, when is share compensation going down and all the other nonsense. People are asking valid questions. I mean, some of them could be worded better. Some are just like, when are you going to be profitable? Versus, hey, do you still expect to reach GAAP profitability by such and such, right? So I think.
But see, I get that. Like, I get why their stock-based compensation. And sorry to cut you off here. I get why they need to focus on that to keep the top talent away from Google and Microsoft, because people are fickle, especially in today's era where people are leaving left and right. What I don't get is, why can't we give access to the developer community?
No, that's what I'm saying. That the questions, if you look at the questions on say.com, they're actually good questions. So the quality of investor is actually starting to go up as well. So I don't know if you guys have noticed that, where now not only are institutions buying in, but the people that are decision makers are also starting to get more vested in seeing this company grow. My thing with getting them on something like Lex Friedman, dude, you have Jocko. Jocko's been on Lex Friedman, I think. He's been on Rogan. Use him as an in. Get in there and say, hey, Lex, listen, we're contributing a lot to the war in Ukraine. We were the first ones to meet.
Chris, you don't
do you want to talk about it?
Lex would take that podcast in a millisecond. He would take that there is no, like, of course he would do that, but there hasn't been the outreach. There hasn't been and more so, Lex might not even know who the hell Alex Karp is. Why? Because this guy doesn't have a brand. There's no brand recognition of Alex Karp.
And maybe they don't know Alex, but they definitely know Peter Thiel.
Everyone knows Peter Thiel. Absolutely. That's a great point. It's a great point. All right, so we've concluded. Karp needs to start a Twitter. Palantir needs to get a TikTok, and then we will go to the moon. That's what's going to happen. And hopefully they show up to a freaking trade show one day as well. I think that's it.
Keep in mind, we all have a lot of money staked in this company, and we like this company. We continue to research it in our off time. My wife knows about it. Like we're saying these things because we care, and it just, some of us work in this industry, and it just boggles the mind as to where's the thought process. Maybe you have a thought process that we're just not smart enough to think about. I just want to know it, because it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think Sachin, Chris, and Dom are definitely more smarter than me in these industries, because they work in sales and cybersecurity, Sachin in consulting. I'm a bit more younger than them, and I'm obsessed with attention and marketing and what does it mean to get someone's attention? What does it mean to cultivate an audience? I mean, again, the only reason I know Dom, Chris, and Sachin is because I found them on Twitter, because they made a voice for themselves, right? It's like,
you've done a hell of a lot better job than my channel, and more proud to you. You're good. You're good at it.
But I have no time to do all the content, man. It's right, just
But that's what I'm saying. Karp doesn't have time to make TikTok videos, but they have more than enough resources to pay a couple people to take his vast amount of footage and turn them into content that's consumable for audiences and build his brand recognition. And that's how I'm thinking of it. But you guys have a different perspective as well. So
Palantir vision and Alex Karp idea is to make a meaningful impact on the world, and that impact will only happen when people are using their product. And more people are using their product, and they are using their product for more complex and larger scenarios and use cases. For that, you need to put the product in the hand of people. And this is where, all the messaging part, all the access to developer, all the freemium model, whatever you call, they need to do it not from a commercial point, just to get the mission done as well and to make money in the process. And when we talk about like SBC, and I said like the way you look at SBC, whether SBC is a good or bad, there is a very simple yardstick. What is SBC? That means the money that you diluted in the equity, but you didn't pay it in the cash. So that means it's a cash that is reinvested back in business. So if you have taken like a $3 billion of SBC and you have invested this cash back into the company, that means that has to generate at least 200, 300, 400 million sale annually for at least, or 500 million. Or it has to, if you put 3 billion in SBC, that 3 billion has to increase the enterprise value or the stock price at least in the order of $6 to $7 billion in valuation. So that is where SBC has to deliver the result in the coming days, and we'll see how it works. Okay, back to you guys.
That's it. We're done. Thank you. 174. I think we had about 190 stay on average for an hour, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Just thank you to everyone watching. Like, seriously, we all appreciate this, and for you guys watching our channels and allow us to just have fun with this and be able to put the time in and research, and we'll keep doing that. We talk on the daily on Twitter, so thank you again for tuning in.
Everyone's YouTube is in the description. Let me say one thing. It's way better talking to 170 people versus 17. So like everyone who's here, it really does motivate us to keep doing these every week and makes us happier. Everyone's YouTube is in the description. I highly recommend, if you're not subscribed to everybody or this channel, please subscribe. And also on July 27th, if anyone's interested in a fun announcement on this channel, please make sure to join at 10 a.m. You guys are already watching this channel right now anyway. I'll be announcing something pretty unique, and hopefully we'll be a case study in marketing that either works or doesn't work, and maybe Palantir can take something from that if it does work.
Alex Karp, if you're on this, get in touch, bro. Get in touch. Come on.
If you're here,
We want to hear from you.
Consulting, my guy.
Come on, Alex. We want to hear from you, man. Come on. You know, we love you, Alex. Don't get us wrong.
Just there was one comment I would like to answer, is that can companies use both Snowflake and Palantir together? Yes, and companies should use both products together because they do different things. Okay, so yes, I mean, and I know companies are using it, and I also know that there are companies which were using a Snowflake were struggling to deploy a couple of use cases where Palantir could have been helpful. I know one company that was using a Snowflake and they were trying to deploy a use case which didn't work out initially with that. Later on, they also decided to take a subscription from Palantir as well. So they are using both together. It is how a good model should work like. Okay. Back to you guys.
Absolutely. All right, guys. We'll see you next week, midweek,
right,
July 27th. We'll see you then as well.
See you guys.
And we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
See you guys. Take care. Bye.